Namaskar. Welcome to this session. Now we are coming to the third yama, namely Asteya. Asteya is not to be in Steya. To refrain from Steyam is Asteya. Now Asteya is literally rendered as non-stealing. And this sounds very ridiculous to be translating it as non-stealing. Asteya is Asteya. Literally it would mean non-stealing because Steyam is to steal and Asteyam is not to steal. But this is a technical term as we have come across during our study of Yoga Sutras, that many of the terms are very technical terms. Asteyam is in Dharma, has a specific meaning. Patanjali is not mentioning Achauryam. Chauryam is to steal. He is not saying Achauryam. He is saying Asteya. So there is no English word for Asteya. The non-stealing would be translation of the word Achauryam. Chauryam is to steal, rob, commit a robbery, or theft, commit a theft. But here it is not Achauryam, it is Asteya. And therefore, let us not get misguided by translations that we get to Asteyam as non-stealing, non-thefting. So, point is, not to have Steyatvam is Steyatvam, and that is Asteya. So, when it comes to morality, ethicality, then we are told you should not be stealing somebody's wealth, somebody's money, somebody's things. So that is morality, ethicality. If you are morally a strong person, you are not expected to be stealing somebody's things. So Achauryam would come in moral ethical principles. But this is ethico-religious principle as we have been translating. This is Dharma Niti Mimamsa. So here in Karma Mimamsa, Dharma Mimamsa, Dharma Niti Mimamsa, and in Yoga Shastra, it would mean not to have Spruha for Paravastu. That would be the meaning of Asteyam. Not to have Spruha. Spruha means to have hankering, to have thirst for somebody else's possession. Hankering for somebody else's possession is called Spruha. So it is thirst for somebody else's possession. It is thirst for somebody else's things. And here not to have very thirst is Asteyam. It doesn't at all bring that motor activity of stealing and refraining from motor activity of stealing as Asteyam. So it is on the plane of very thirst, Spruha. So Steyatvam in Dharma, not literally but in Dharma Shastra, Karma Mimamsa Shastra, Karma Shastra, Yoga Shastra, Achara Dharma Niti Mimamsa, it is not to have Spruha. Spruha is, as I said, it is hankering for somebody else's things. So that is how we can commence to understand this concept of Asteya and this the third of the Yama. Now in Shastra, what is described is, first of all, Steyatvam is described. So Shastra or Vyasa, Bhashyakar, would be explaining Steyatvam, Steyam, and then refraining from that is expected to be practiced because these are restraints. So absence of Steyatvam, absence of Paravastu Spruha is Asteyam. So this would be the enunciation to Asteya. Then you will understand how much this is to do something to do with our very tendency. Because human psychology is quite intriguing and it's quite strange and weird that somebody else's things, man strangely has spruha, thirst, hankering, and this is we come across in human psychology. Basically, the Steyatvam is something to do not with the motor activity but with Vasana. It is Vasana Dheena. It is a tendency. We have allurements for somebody else's things. We have longing for somebody else's thing. Even if that thing is with us, the same thing with somebody else, we strangely have hankering for it. It has something to do with Vasana. Steyatvam is a Vasana. Similar is the case of Himsa. Himsa is a Vasana. It's not that we have brutality, but yet it's a tendency within us. Not that every one of us have Himsa coming on motor plane, but we have tendency for Himsa. We have tendency for Asatya. And that is why the restraints are something to do with Vasana management, tendency management, propensity management. These are natural propensities and that's why they are called restraints. So, Himsa, as we have seen, is quite a tendency within us for all living beings. It's a Mula Bhuta Vasana. It is a basic tendency for all living beings. Similarly, Asatya. Asatya is a natural tendency. When we take recourse to Asatya, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are trying to deceive someone, we want to deceive someone. Even sometimes we are not trying to deceive, but Asatya becomes, being a tendency, it just surfaces. So let me tell you a strange thing that about speaking the untruths. Why do we speak untruth? There are several reasons, and we have just now seen that in analysis, lobha, krodha, moha, purvaka, etc., krutakarita, anumodita. But sometimes, out of reverence, out of love, we conceal the truth. We don't want to speak the truth because we think that the other person whom we love would be devastated, would be hurt, would be vexed and troubled, and that's why those persons whom we love a lot, we want to conceal so many things from them, or we want to even lie them. We don't mean to deceive them. There is no ill intention of deceiving that person, but yet we speak the untruth, and many times it happens spontaneously. So if you are afraid of someone, you will speak the untruth. If you revere someone, you will speak untruth. If you love someone, you will speak the untruth, or you will conceal the truth. And it happens spontaneously. You don't mean to be deceiving the person at all. Now, out of reverence and fear out of reverence, many times we speak the untruth. Although we do not have any malignity in the mind, we don't have anything of the nature of intention to deceive someone, fool someone, yet we speak the untruth, and many times it comes very spontaneously. It is a reflex action that we will speak the untruth because we love a person. We don't intentionally do anything. This is also to be taken note of. We don't intentionally conceal the truth or intentionally speak the untruth to a person whom we love a lot, revere a lot, or we are afraid of someone. But it comes as a reflex action. There is no kind of intention to be deceiving or craftiness. That not even a craftiness behind speaking our truth, untruth, or behind concealing the truth. So try to understand the dynamics of our life, human life. You will realize that it is a reflex action because that's a Vasana. Asatya is a Vasana. Himsa is a Vasana. We don't have any craftiness, we don't have ill intentions, yet it will happen. So it is because it is very natural tendency, and therefore they are called restraints. We don't have to just restrain ourselves from something ill-doing, something that is having a crafty kind of thought process behind it. Even without that, very spontaneously, very organically, very genuinely, very as a reflex action, the untruth comes out of us without any ill intentions, without any sinning potential, without any sin. It just comes up. So this happens more often. If you are afraid of a person, a lot of fear for a person, then very spontaneously you will take recourse to untruth. You love a person a lot, very naturally, very spontaneously. So it is something as reflex action. This is reflex action because it is rooted in Vasana. This is what we have to understand about yamas. It is not that we are sinisters, we have sinning kind of mindset, but yet it will come out. It is more probable in case of Asatya. It may not be so much in Himsa, but Satya, which is having at counterposition the Asatya Vasana, Asatya tendency. It is so deeply rooted and without any ill kind of thought around it, very spontaneously as a reflex action, we will conceal something from someone whom we love a lot, whom we fear a lot, or whom we revere a lot, or where there is fear out of reverence or love out of reverence. These concealments take place. Similarly, the Steya is this thirst and Spruha. And what is being spoken of is the tendency to be having a hankering or longing for somebody else's things. That is Steya. So in Shastra you get the definition. Even when you accept something from someone, that also becomes Steya. See, suppose somebody gifts you something. Now, you straight away say this was gifted to me, but the psychoanalysis tells us that you were hankering for it. you were having spruha for it, you wanted in your deep psyche, you really wanted that thing to be your thing, but you did not ask for it, you did not grab it, you did not take it, but the person gifted it, and you get the gift that you want or you wanted and you are wanting, and then that also becomes Steyatvam. Because if the receiving of a gift, when it is having a touch of this Spruha, it becomes Steya. So that is why in the definition we are told Vidhi Virodhi Shastra Viparita Paradravya Grahanam is Steyam. Just to receive somebody else's things or money, even by way of dakshina or by way of gift, if you had the spruha for that thing, then it becomes Steya. You just can't escape saying that this was gifted, unilaterally gifted, I did not ask for it. But then if you have thirst, it immediately becomes Steyam. So in the Shastra we are told that the taking of Guru Dakshina, taking Dakshina, etc., if it is Vidhi Virodhi, if it is not according to injunctions, if it is Shastra Viparita, receiving it itself is Steyam. It is restraint worthy because there is spruha in it. There is thirst for it, there is hankering for it. And therefore, not to have spruha, not to have thirst is a very basic condition of asteyam. So not to mistake that Patanjali is trying to advise, don't be stealing somebody's things. Well, there is no reference to that particular mania. Sometimes it's a mania also. They call us kleptomania. Somebody is in habit of picking up things. There is no ill intention of committing a theft, because that's a mania. So that's a kind of psychosis. So that also is to be set aside in Asteya. That should not be there. Such a thing also should not be there. So that's why this is Dharma Niti Mimamsa. Now here Asteyam is coming as a vrata. So Asteya Vritti is one thing. Asteya Vritti is one thing. But then we have to understand what might be Asteya Vratam, the vow of Asteya. It could be atomic or it could be universal. So Patanjali is actually speaking about Asteya Vratam more than Asteya Vritti. So we might be having Asteya Vritti because of our modesty, temperance and honesty, etc. But what Patanjali is speaking here is about Asteya Vratam. So that is also an important point to be noted. Now, why the Steyatvam happens is what we have to study, understand, comprehend, investigate. Now this Steyatvam, as Patanjali has pointed out, could be Krutakarita Anumodita, Lobha Krodha Moha Purvaka, Mrudu Madhya Adhimatra. So the Spruha can be there in our mind which can manifest in these outlets. And therefore we must try to refrain ourselves from such Steyatvam. So Steya is more to be understood on the plane of mind and not on the plane of motor organism. So Vachaspati makes this clear in his Tattva Vaisharadi. Manasa Vyapara Purvakatvat Vachanika Kayika Vyaparayoho Pradhanyan Mano Vyapara Uktaha. So Steyatvam can take place Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. Now when it is Kaya, on the plane of body, means this is actually a theft, committing act of theft with motor organ. So that will be Kayika. Then Vachika. Many times we just in speech, we might be making such an expression that I would like to have somebody else's possession. Although we don't have courage and perhaps the immorality, unethicality to be grabbing somebody's something, but then it can take place on Vachik plane as well. And Manasa Vyapara, in the mental plane. So the tendency starts bubbling up in the mind, and then you start having Spruha for somebody else's things. And therefore Vachaspati Mishra says Pradhanyan Mano Vyapara Uktaha. It is basically Mano Vyaparam. Mental activity of the nature of Steyatvam is being referred to. So tendency aspect of Steyatvam is being referred to, because the thirst is in the mind. Any kind of such thirst is always in the mind. The Spruha is in the mind. Spruha is in the Chitta. And sometimes there is Chitta Skhalanam. Generally we don't have Spruha, but in certain time-space situation, the thirst bubbles up. So there is a kind of fall in the caliber of the Chitta and caliber of the mind, and a vibration or a bubble of thirst comes up. So we have our weak moments of psychic consciousness. So that is called Chitta Skhalanam. So the Chitta Skhalanam is also to be counted. In the deep mind somewhere, there is a bubble of desire. So basically you will now understand that Asteya implies that one must be having thirstlessness of very high order. A very high order. Because already if there is a thirst, then at some point in time that will touch your mind. Oh, I should have had this. It should have been mine. I should have possessed this. I should be getting this. I should procure this. So this thought of the nature of thirst will touch your mind, particularly in the weak moments of mind psychic consciousness. So that is called Chitta Skhalanam, which happens once in a while, not all the time, but sometimes it happens. So there is Manasa Steyatvam, Vak Steyatvam. Although there may not be Kayika Steyatvam. You may not commit the act out of kleptomania or act of theft, committing a theft or robbing someone's things or picking up someone's things. It may not actualize on motor plane, but it, however, can be on the plane of speech organ and also can be on the plane of mind. So the point is that in dharma, in adhyatma, in yoga, the steya can be committed kaya, vacha, manasa, and we need to take measures there. We don't have to take measures for physical act of theft and restrain ourselves from that. But that thing should not touch your mind also. I recall a wonderful statement from Saura Puranam 12.7. Chauryena va balenapi paraswaharam cha yat steyam iti uchyate sad atri asteyam yatantasya vartanam. So, our steyam can be committed by act of grabbing someone, forcefully grabbing balenapi with some bala, or by some atrocity. Paraswaharanam can take place. But this happens for those who are on very low rung of morality ethicality or absence of morality ethicality. Then it is so irresistible Vāsana that it would come on the motor plane and one would be committing the physical act of theft or stealing. Then in Garuda Puranam there is a quotation, Asteyam asangraham param. So not to have sangraha vritti itself. Sangraha vritti means habit to collect the things. Asteyam is asangraham vritti, asangraham param. So there must be that thirstlessness, modesty of such high order, simplicity of such a high order that one doesn't feel like collecting the things, collecting the wealth and collecting the things. So that is what the Garuda Puranam says in Ahirbudhya Samhita of Pancharatra. Asteyam aspruha nyesham vitte vakkaya manasai. Very precise definition, and this would be quite fitting to what is being discussed. Asteyam aspruha. Aspruha for what? Anyesham vitte. For the vitta, for the property or for the wealth or the things of others. And this should be absent vakkaya manasai. It should be absent in kaya vacha manasa. So, Ahirbudhya Samhita is describing Asteyam as it is implied in Patanjali's Asteyam. Another noteworthy quotation comes from Kurma Puranam. Steyam tasya anacharanat asteyam dharma sadhanam. Steyam is anachara, never to indulge in steyam. Never encourage, never indulge in steyam. Steyam tasya anacharanat. It is anachar. Asteyam dharma sadhanam. Asteyam is dharma sadhanam. Dharma is amassed by asteyam, and therefore asteyam is dharma tattva. Then I recall another quotation that comes in Darshanopanishad in the first chapter of it. Anyadiye trune ratne kanchane mautike apicha manasa vinivruttiriya tad asteyam vidur buddha. Anyadiye trune ratne kanchane mautike api. These are all valuables. Ratna, pearls, diamonds, valuable stones. So, manasa vinivruttiriya. Vinivrutti is the mind itself. We must be turning our backs in the mind itself. Our mind should turn its back towards anybody's belongings, anybody's possessions, anybody's wealth, anybody's money and wealthy things. Manasa vinivrittirya tad asteyam vidir buddhaha. That is called asteyam by vidushi, by the wise ones, the Buddha Janas. And then there is that spiritual touch behind this. It is not just Vasana reformation. Atmani anatma bhavena vyavahara nirvijitam yattad asteyam ityuktam atma vidbhi mahamune. So, you take someone as someone else. And that is why this Vasana bubbles up. And you have this Vasana because in the things which are anatma. All these valuable things are anatma. There is no atma in it. It is not atma tattva. The gold is not atma tattva. Diamond is not atma tattva. Pearl is not atma tattva. So what is not atma? We have thirst there. We don't have thirst for atma. We have thirst for anatma. This is what happens to us in mundane plane. We don't have a hankering for a spiritual entity called Atma, but we have a hankering for non-spiritual things such as money, wealth, valuable stones and pearls and diamonds, etc., the gold, etc. So basically, one is not Atma Abhimukha, one is Atma Vinmukha. You have turned your back towards Atma, therefore you have your face towards these valuables. And then you have hankering and you have desire and you have Spruha. But if you are heading towards the Atma itself, then you will not be having this thirst for anything that is anatma. So this Atma Anatma Avivekam is the cause of Steya Vritti, Steya Vasana. So if we have Atma and Atma Vivekam, discrimination between Atma and Atma, we would not be enticed by Atruna Suvarna Paryantam anything. Nothing will entice us from something which is just blade of grass to a chip of gold. So the point is there should be no Spruha. Atruna Suvarna Paryantam Aspruha is Asteyam. Now this Aspruha will come because of spiritual evolvement, spiritual enlightenment or spiritual wisdom. So in absence of spiritual wisdom, there can be no Asteya at all. Now not to be robbing, you don't need spiritual wisdom. Not to have robbery, not to be robbing, not to be stealing, not to be committing a theft. You don't need spiritual insight. That's why they are moral ethical principles. But for Asteyam, you need Atma and Atma Viveka. If that Viveka is not there, discrimination is not there, if you are indiscriminate about Atma and Atma, then the Steyatvam is Aparyaharya. You cannot be free from Steyatvam. So suppose somebody is non-thief, doesn't have any tendency to be committing a theft. That doesn't mean the person is spiritually evolved. That person is only morally, ethically strong, that's all. But for Steyatvam, you need this Atma Abhimukha Vritti, Atma Abhimukhata. You must be so self-worldly. You must be in spiritual practice. You must be in spiritual values. You must be soaked in spiritual values. Then you will overcome these tendencies. You cannot otherwise overcome the tendencies by whiplashing tendencies or by discipline. By discipline, you can be a moral practitioner, ethical practitioner. But by discipline, you cannot be a dharma practitioner. So, the Shandilyopanishad, Asteyam nama manovakaya karma bhi nispruha paradravyeshu, very clearly spells out with some predicates, nispruha, that is not to have spruha, paradravyeshu, for others' possessions, and manovakaya karma bhi, by mano karma or vak karma or kaya karma, there should not be any bubble of Steyatvam or Spruha, that is Aspruha. Because otherwise, human mind is so funny. But suppose you say, I found some valuable things which were fallen somewhere in forest, in valleys. So I was pretty sure that it is not somebody's belonging who will come and claim. I have found it in forest, I have found it in some isolated places, I have found it in mountain ranges and in valleys. So you can pick it up. So where is the robbery there? You found it there. You are not robbing. But the fact is, you had spruha. You had spruha, therefore you picked up, not knowing to whom it belongs. You picked up. Now, why did you pick up? Because you had spruha. And therefore, absence of spruha is important. Otherwise, we will say, we find something somewhere, we dig the ground and we find some wealth. We walk through some forest, woods and through the valleys and mountain ranges and we find some valuable fallen somewhere. And then we can pick it up. You say, I have not committed a theft, I got it. But then there was very, very much spruha. But that's why this factor of spruha is so important. Now, with regards to this, the philosophy behind this Asteya, I recall the Ishopanishads in the very opening verse saying, where it says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha ma gradaha kasya svidhanam. So that is called Ishavasya Vritti. So, ma gradaha kasya svidhanam. This is a wonderful wording that you get in Ishavasya Upanishad. So, when it is Ishavasya Vritti, it will not really matter whether you are seeing something in a remote place, mountain tops, mountain valleys, forests. You will not think of possessing it, because that is his. If you do not know who is the owner of anything, ultimately he is the owner of everything. He means that Isha, and that's called Ishavasya Vritti. It all belongs to him. So it would be committing a theft if I pick up something which I think it is not mine and I do not know to whom it belongs. I found it, I picked up. It's committing theft there, because what belongs to no one belongs to him. Everything that is here belongs to him. That is called Ishavasya Vritti. So in Ishavasya Vritti, Steyatvam will come. So in other words, Asteyam means Ishavasya Vritti of Ishopanishad. So those are interested, look into Ishavasya Upanishad and Ishavasya Vritti. Try to crystallize what is Ishavasya Vritti, and then you will understand how Asteyam is very much there. I recall In Skanda Puranam, there is a wonderful topic, and this is again a unique Puran. Skanda Puran is the largest of all Puranas. It contains some 72,000 verses, largest of all Puranas. And in Skanda Purana you get a part called Nagara Khanda. The civil science comes there. And it mentions there in chapter 163, verse 36, Yat kinchit vidyate ratnam parthivasya kshitau dvija tat sarvam rajakiya syad vittarvado viduhu. So this is the law of the land, which comes in Skanda Purana. In the Nagar Khanda, the civil sense prevailed, and then the civil sense of the Skanda Purana tells us that if you find something underground, you are digging the ground, and then you find some wealth, if it certainly doesn't belong to you, you do not know to whom it belongs, in that case it is belonging to the state. Tat sarvam brajakiya syad. Give it to the government. Hand it over to government. You should hand over such wealth which you find here and there. It must be going into the custody of the government, in the custody of the governance and governor. So that is all Rajakiya Syad is what is mentioned in Skanda Purana. And this is really praiseworthy that in Purana you get such kind of instruction which tells you if something doesn't belong to you and you do not know to whom it belongs, it should certainly go into the treasury of the government. So that is how the Steyatvam is described. Now, for Steyatvam, as you are aware, that you need to have philosophized chitta, philosophized mind to be practicing Asteya. You cannot be a very mundane person, unphilosophical person and still say, I am in Asteya. You might be perhaps in non-stealing. You don't steal. You don't commit theft. You are not kleptomaniac. But what is being mentioned here is Nispruha. The chitta must be free from spruha, raga, lobha, moha, ichha, akanksha, apeksha. The mind should be, the chitta should be free from desire and desirousness. That is what we have to earn in Asteyam. So what will you do for Asteya? For Asteya Vritti, later it might become Asteya Vratam, either Anu or Mahavratam. Basically you must have Asteya Vritti. Now how do you structure the Asteya Vritti like it came with regards to Ahimsa and Satya? You need to adhere to Sangatraya. That is Sat Sangha, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha. Then Yajna, Dana, Tapas. The principles must be inculcated, deeply imbibed. Yajna principle, Tapas principle, Dana principle. So we need to go to the basic aspects of yoga, which is Yajna, Dana, Tapa, Traya, the three principles which are so important, which purify the human consciousness. Yajna, Dana, Tapas. Because Bhagavad Gita promises Pavanani Manishinaha. They purify the mind, they culture the mind, they sublimate the mind, they make the mind lofty matter and raise up a lofty structure of the mind, lofty structure of the chitta. Then the satsanga, sadhu sangha, sattva sangha, santa sangha, satya sangha, that is satsanga. Sadhana sangha, the sadhana of the three shariras, sharira traya, sthula sharira, sukshma sharira, karana sharira. We have discussed these sadhana aspects. What are the sadhanas of sthula sharira? What are sadhanas of sukshma sharira? What are the sadhanas of the karana sharira? So these are circumscribed in sadhana sangha. And then shastra sangha, dharma shastra adhyanam, moksha shastra adhyanam, yoga shastra adhyanam, gita shastra adhyanam, vedanta shastra adhyanam. So dharma shastra, vedanta shastra, sankhya shastra, yoga shastra, veda shastra, vedanta shastra. The study of these shastras is called shastra sangha. And then aharadi chatushyam, ahar, vihar, achar, vichar. So we again come back to these even in Asteyam. As this was referred to in Ahimsa principle, Satya principle, now the same thing comes here. So you don't have to do different things. The same sadhana will give you Asteya vritti, Asteya potential, Asteya samskar. So sattvic ahar, vihar, achar, vichar. And not rajasic ahar, vihar, achar, vichar. And certainly not tamasic ahar, vihar, achar, vichar, but sattvic ahar, vihar, achar, vichar. So we need to understand these very elaborately. So that will work on Vasana, Spruha and Prushna. The chitta must be in Shanta Dharma. Shanti Samadhan is one of the Shad Sampattis. So we have to earn all those Shad Sampattis: Shama, Dana, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Jnana Vairagya, Shanti Samadhan. So these are the Shad Sampatti Sadhana. When the Shad Sampatti is attained, then the Asteya vritti will also be taking shape in the mind. But then, as we know that it is mentioned as a vrata, and for us it is anuvrata. So at least on some days we get the benefit of atmosphere, and we must avail of it. And on that day, on those occasions, we can be practicing those as vrata. So you get that atmosphere, you get antaspurti, you get that kind of cultured mind surfacing on those auspicious days. Which are these auspicious days? Hanuman Jayanti, Datta Jayanti, Krishna Jayanti, Sri Ramanavami, Mahashivratri, Guru Purnima. On these days we are sublime. Our chemistry is totally different on these days, on these occasions. So we can use these occasions, and on those occasions we can certainly be practicing these as vratas. And then we have all compatibilities coming very, very handy. The Daivi Sampada, Daivi Samskar, Daivi Vatavaranam, that is the atmosphere, all that can be attained, and then we can be in Vrata. So on these auspicious days, we can certainly be in vrata because of the sublimation innately having springs within us. So when it is a vrata, then we know there is vrata bhresha, vrata skhalanam. So vrata, the vritti skhalanam is one thing and vrata skhalanam is another thing. We are more hurt and we are more disturbed by vrata skhalanam than vritti skhalanam. So on such auspicious days, suppose there is a violation taking place, it hurts us a lot if we are conscientious. But the advantage is that we have compatible conditions, claimant conditions to be in vrata on such auspicious days which I mentioned, Datta Jayanti, Hanuman Jayanti, Sri Ram Navami, Krishna Jayanti, Mahashivratri. On those days we are very sublime. So it is very rare that we will have the dissipation in us, or what is called as vrata bhresha or vrata skhalanam. So that will be kept at bay on some of the days, and we must avail of these days and be in the vows. And as long as we do not allow Rajo Sangha and Tamo Sangha, it will be assured and ensured that we will not be compromising, we will not be falling. And if at all there is a fall, then how is the fall? Kruta, Karita, Anumodita, Lobha, Krodha, Moha Purvaka, and then of the nature of Brudu or Badhya or Adhipatra, which Patanjali has told us about. So our Anuvratas may be getting violated because of this. So this is what we have to understand by the Steyatvam and Asteyatvam. I recall another wonderful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam with which I want to conclude the topic of Asteyam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a wonderful mention or wonderful kind of precept. Listen to this very carefully. Not to collect sadhana samugri, not to collect the means more than our essentials. If you have tendency to have more than your essentials, means collected, means stacked up, more than essentials, then that is Steyatvam. So not to collect amas, dhanadhanya sampatti, not to collect the grocery and the wealth, etc., or the bhoga sadhanas, not to collect the bhoga sadhanas, not to certainly collect more than essential. And if you take anything more than essential, even if you eat more than essential, you have robbed. You have committed a robbery. So even if you eat more than what is essential, and now you know why you overeat, you will see that there is Spruha, there is passion, there is lust, there is greed. So not even to eat more than what is essential, not to have anything as means around us more than essential. That is, if it is not there, then it is Steyatvam. We have almost committed a theft. So even if you have eaten more than you need, you have committed a theft. And then you can understand by little analysis, yes, you have deprived someone would have eaten. A hungry person would have eaten what you overate. So that means you have robbed that person of the food. So the Bhagavatam tells us about this Steyam, that even to collect and have in possession the things more than what is essential, That itself is Steyatvam. Now you will understand all of us are committing Steyatva for our social security, for our economic security. Because otherwise in mundane world, if you are not socially secure, financially, economically secure, you know your life. What is the fate of life? And therefore we keep collecting. And collecting that itself is also Steyatvam according to Bhagavad Dharma. So anyway, that is about Asteya, Asteya Vritti, Asteya Vratam, and how Steyatvam would occur, Kaya Vacha Manasa, Krutakarita Anumodita, Lobha Krodha Moha Purvaka, Brudu Madhya Adhimatra. In mild or middle or intense degree, this can happen. So we need to manage Steyatvam. The Steyatvam must be under scrutiny, must be under hawk's eyes, and then reformation will take place by the Steyatva restraining. Refrainment from Steyatvam is what is our Asteya. And then when we are in Asteya, then we can go for Asteya Vratam. So let me conclude this by finally repeating what I said in the beginning. Asteyam is not non-stealing, but it is very tendency, hankering, desirousness for the things which are not yours. And usually this is typical to human mind. What is not yours, we start having thirst for it. We develop covet for it. And many times we have it, but then we have covet for somebody else's same thing. So that is Steyatvam. So Asteya as a Dharma Tattva we have to understand. So with this we will conclude the topic of Asteyam, and then we will proceed to Brahmacharya in next session. Namaskar all of you.